Hello everyone. I hope everybody is safe and healthy while watching this video. I created this video basically as an education material for my family who frequently calls me and asks about COVID-19 as everybody's scared and anxious about this infection. And being a physician, I'm my family's the best resource. So I thought of creating short videos and not only to share with my family but with you all so that everybody could benefit. Um, and I'll be discussing COVID-19 infection in 3 different videos and many additional aspects in many more other videos. But I think the most important aspect to understand this infection is to really understand how the infection cycle works. And so there are basically 3 different things when it comes to infection and to sustain infection. The first part is the bug, which is our enemy. The second is the transmission or the environment, how it works, and it supports the transmission from one person to another person or from one host to the another host. And the third aspect is the host itself, who needs to be susceptible to get this infection. So in this video we will be covering what the COVID-19 is, what the virus is. So we will learn about our enemy. I think it's most important to know about the enemy if you really want to fight against it. So let's get started. So the first question is, what is COVID-19? So it's a virus infection which affects the respiratory tract, and so it's quite similar and overlaps in its manifestation to common cold or to the flu, because the system affected is the same. So many a times it's really hard to distinguish initially whether this is a COVID-19 infection or whether this is just a common cold or the flu. And I think the most important clue could be a contact to a suspected COVID-19 or a travel to a place which have individuals with COVID-19 infection. But now I think that is becoming a moot point, given almost every country has COVID-19 infection. So I think it's good to watch for the signs which are very similar to the other respiratory infections, which is fever, having cough, or difficulty breathing. And in other videos I will be discussing if there are specific features in the clinical infection which might be more suggestive of COVID-19, but for the purpose of this video we will be talking only about the virus. And it's important to note that this is an invisible enemy. The virus is so small that it cannot be seen. So even the surfaces which look quite clean, they might be having viruses. And just to give you a sense, so this is a hair which has been blown 1,000 times, and compare that to the virus which has been blown 1,000 times. And even such a large magnification, you can see it is so small. And now reduce that to size 1,000 times lesser, and you can imagine it's impossible to see this virus with a naked eye. So don't presume that the surface looks clean, or the hands looks clean, or the person looks clean, so it's not infected. Consider every surface to be potential source of infection. So now we know that COVID-19 is a virus which causes a respiratory infection. Now the next question is, there is another name for this. It's called coronavirus, and this is called coronavirus because it belongs to a group of viruses which has a crown-like appearance because of the spike, due to the spike projection which surrounds um, the surface of the virus. So it looks like a crown or the corona, and uh, and it is called COVID-19 because it's a coronavirus. So CO for the corona, VI for the virus, and it caused the disease in 2019, so it was called COVID-19. Um, and there are at least 7 type of coronaviruses which exist. Some cause common cold, and some has actually caused infection in the past. And so this is not the first time coronavirus affected humans, and actually it does exist in birds and mammals. And one of the interesting fact, which even I realized while looking into the research, is that many coronaviruses cause about 1/3 of the common colds, and and in the past there has been 2 outbreaks by this coronavirus infection, and everybody is aware. SARS infection in 2002 and MERS infection in 2012. They were both severe respiratory tract infections, very similar to the COVID-19, but with some differences, which I'll be showing on the next slide. And here you can see that compared to COVID-19, SARS and MERS occurred at a much smaller scale, but had a much higher mortality rate. But we are still learning about COVID-19 mortality. So far it looks like it is less than 3 to 5%, and even lesser in some of the other studies. But there is a small subgroup of individuals who suffer higher mortality. And in another video I will be talking about who are those individuals who are getting more severely affected or dying because of COVID-19. Interesting thing about COVID-19 is nobody knows how it originated. How was it born? It remains a mystery. What we know is this is a new or a novel coronavirus, which is different from the existing coronaviruses. There are 2 different theories as to how it was born. One is the human theory that maybe the coronaviruses which causes common cold, at some point they had some mutation in the genetic material which they have, and formed a more serious coronavirus, which is COVID-19. Or it could be a combination of 2 coronaviruses where they resulted in a more deadly virus. The other theory is because the coronaviruses, they are common in animals, so maybe a mutation in an animal coronavirus allowed it to infect then human cells, causing this new infection. Or there was a co-infection of either an animal or a human being from a combined animal and human coronavirus, which led to this new coronavirus. So again, these are all speculation, but this is what has been proposed in the past, even for the other serious coronavirus infection when they initially started. And so this is very interesting fact that the animal reservoir, they exist for all the coronaviruses, and at some point the animal caused human transmission, and then finally the humans were able to sustain that transmission and cause a big outbreak, and in case of COVID-19 it's now a pandemic. And you might be hearing a lot in news about super spreading events or super spreaders. So these are nothing but an individual which is able to infect many others. For example, if somebody with infection has boarded a plane and is able to infect many other individuals on that plane, then he is a super spreader. So these events can happen at big meetings. So that's the rationale why government and the health organizations are discouraging to gather or have social meetings or gatherings to reduce these super spreading events, which actually leads to enormous increase in the rate of infection spread. Now, the another question is, where does this COVID-19 virus lives? So, as I mentioned before, it potentially lives in animals. Plus, humans are important source because on human body it is able to live and complete its cycle for several days before infecting other individual. While once it is out in the environment, it is not able to live for long time because the surface of this virus is susceptible to heating, drying, and any form of harsh environment, and then that's why the alcohol rubs leads to damage to the surface of this virus and making it ineffective to cause infections. So that's the rationale of using hand rubs and washing hands so that the surface of the virus gets damaged and it's not able to infect individuals. The other reason is to reduce the number of viruses on hands or these surfaces so that the critical threshold for causing that infection is not met. This is a figure which I made to explain two important aspects. That for an individual person, it might be that this side of the picture which might be relevant, while from the prevention standpoint, this side of the picture is very important. So let's try to understand it quickly. So the infection starts with the virus entry, and before the first manifestation or the first symptom starts, there's a time interval which is called incubation period. And during this incubation period, the person might be able to shed the viruses. So it's important that even at this asymptomatic stage, the person might be infective. Now, once the symptom develop, it might be very mild symptom to very severe infection. Now, people who get more severe infection are easy to recognize, identify, isolate, but people who get minimal symptoms or don't get symptoms at all are more dangerous because they can potentially infect many individuals unknowingly. And once the symptoms resolve, even beyond that, a person might be passing these viruses out of its body. So it's important that in the period of convalescence, and the person might be still infected. So it's very important that we should not think that the person is not having symptoms, so that's why he's not able to infect. On the other hand, it's speculated that these asymptomatic carriers or incubating carriers or convalescent carriers might be the one causing a bigger scale of this pandemic. So presume everybody to be infected and a potential source of infection. I know it sounds quite extreme, but it's probably safe to assume that and use all the precautions to protect yourself. And in another video, I will talk about how to prevent yourself from this infection. Leave any comments if you have any question about this virus. I'll be more than happy to answer that. And please like this video if you were if you feel that you were more educated after watching this video, and please hit the subscribe button to know about more videos which are gonna come in coming days. Thank you.